Welcome, everyone, to the greatest show on earth, NXT, from October the 21st, no, October 22nd, 2024. It is truly one of the greatest shows in wrestling. I love NXT. Everybody knows this. So this episode of 3 Count Commentaries will feature 3 main topics. 1, NXT invading the ECW Arena. 2, Daniel Garcia talking about NXT because it's very important that I discuss this. And 3rd, predictions. Halloween Havoc 2024. That will be at the end of the show. And of course, after we do the first 2 news and notes, we will be doing a review of the NXT show from October 22nd. So let's start with ECW Arena. November 6th, which is a Wednesday, they will be going head up once again with AEW Dynamite. Wednesday, November the 6th, because NXT will be preempted by the national election here in the United States of America. So they will be having NXT the very next night in Philadelphia at the 2300 Arena, which used to be called the ECW Arena. The guys over at Fightful, one guy over at Fightful, who shall remain anonymous, thought that NXT did not deserve to be at the ECW Arena. They sold it out in 30 minutes. 30 minutes. It's only 1,500 tickets, so it wasn't like a hell of a lot. But it sold out in 30 minutes. Only VIP is remaining as of now. Could be scalpers. Could be interest. Either way it goes, NXT running the ECW Arena on a Wednesday, the opposite of Dynamite, is going to be a pretty big day. Or should they call in a bunch of ECW guys? Not a bunch. A couple, sure. You got to bring in some. You know, you got to bring in Rob. You probably got to bring in Sandman. You're probably going to bring in Punk, even though Punk's not an ECW guy. He's beloved by the Philly crowd. You might want to bring him in for that. And you might want to bring Paul. If Paul is back by then. Who knows? Paul might not be able to come back because he's written off TV due to the Bloodline story. So maybe it will be somebody else. I mean, if it were me, I would obviously try to get different kinds of ECW guys on the show. Just because we always see Rob and, you know, guys like him are always there. Tommy Dreamer is always there. Sandman is always there. The Dudleys, they're almost always at the ECW Arena. Or when they do something that has to do with the ECW, the Dudleys almost always show up. But it would be nice if it was like Stevie Richards and Raven and some of the other guys that you don't see a lot in WWE do some ECW stuff. But I'm perfectly happy with it just being Tommy Dreamer and Rob Van Dam. I know Tommy Dreamer works at TNA, so it actually works perfectly. Guys like him and Rhino work for TNA. Them coming on over to pop their head in Philly. It wouldn't get in the way. I also understand and I sympathize with people who are kind of over the ECW thing and kind of figure we need to move forward. Why deal with nostalgia? I think this is the first time WWE has run this building outside of an ECW event. So I think you got at least to have 1 or 2 guys. You might not want to put them in the ring, but to do a promo, to sit in the crowd, to do a meet and greet or something around there would be nice. And it's a good way of putting on a soothing balm for that audience who still love ECW. Unfortunately, Paul will not be there. Now, let's talk about NXT and Daniel Garcia. So, when Daniel Garcia was being discussed as a top free agent in the pro wrestling space, one of the things that people were discussing was that he should come to NXT because of all the fine women that are in NXT. And Daniel Garcia is apparently a young gooner. So the conversation was, well, you're a gooner, you should go to NXT. So people took this very seriously because there's no such thing as jokes these days. It was all a joke anyway. But he was asked on a podcast about this because, again, it's super serious. And Daniel Garcia actually had an absolutely fantastic and very mature response. He says, quote, I get the allure of it. I get why people think it was funny, and it kept blowing up, and people kept sending me things. To me, it just completely undermines how great NXT is. I feel like NXT right now is hot. It's on fire. I feel like they have such a great talent, both men and women. International talent from all over the world. People with all different kinds of experience levels. I feel like when people kept saying, I'm just going to sign there because there's a bunch of attractive women, I think it completely undermines the work rate, the talent of the entire roster. And I think they have a great roster on their hands. I feel like they're doing a bunch of great things over there. And like I said, I just think it completely undermines it. It takes away from what they're doing over there. Genius response by Daniel Garcia. I got to give him points for this. Yes, it does undermine. Because, a lot of the people who took this thing seriously, they don't watch NXT and don't like it anyway. They're the cage match folks, you know? They look up, when you say, oh my God, NXT was so much fun, they go and look up the matches on Cage Match and see, oh, this match was only 3 minutes, and how could it be any good? It's like, you're not getting it. This is about vibes, bro. NXT is a vibes show. They can do the graps, and the graps sometimes is well appreciated, but most of the time, NXT is just vibes. You're just watching the show and you having fun with the insane stuff that's happening on the product. You're getting involved with the characters. Some of it's a little cheesy. A lot of it's fun. NXT is the one wrestling show that doesn't try to take itself too seriously. And mostly it's because so many of these talents don't really know how to take themselves that seriously yet. They're out there trying new things. They're doing different stuff. So it's a fun show to watch. And all these joyless incels who think that, oh, you should only go, they think you should just go to NXT because they got big booty women over there. You gotta be kidding me. This was never serious. For starters, nobody wants Daniel Garcia in WWE. For starters. All right? Secondly, it was a joke. We were playing off of his gooning tendencies. Because he's a young man who likes women. It's okay. He can stay over there with all in the sausage party that is AEW. Get you some fine women over there. Anyway, let's get into NXT before we get into Halloween Havoc. Damage Control versus Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson entered the disqualification because Piper Niven and Chelsea Green beat up both teams. Again, I really enjoy what they're doing with Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson. They're really spreading them out, but they're not spreading them thin. After losing that tag team championship match, they have not lost since. They've either won or gotten disqualified. This is the second disqualification. I'm going to take it in stride because the only other option was to beat Damage Control or beat them. So, putting some heat on Chelsea and Piper, which popped the crowd because the crowd wasn't expecting them to come out there. It worked out just fine. It also gives Chelsea Green and Piper Niven something to do. And now we got ourselves a fatal four-way situation here, where Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson are firmly inserted into the women's tag team division, with Damage Control and Jade and Bianca, along with Piper and Chelsea. This could work out perfectly fine for everybody involved. Normally, I'm not a huge fan of fatal four-ways, but this gets me more of what I want. I don't want to see Jakara Jackson and Lash Legend losing a bunch of matches. They have ability. Let's see what they can do. I want Chelsea Green to be featured more. This gives her an opportunity. I'm a huge mark for Bianca. Bianca's here. She's not taking any L's yet, so I'm okay with that. Big fan of Kyrie and EO. Them being here is great. And Jade Cargill, she can just come right along. And Piper Niven, well, I guess Chelsea Green has to have a tag team partner. All right? So, I'm okay with this. Also, excellent catch from EO, who almost broke her neck falling off the top rope. But then she tucked and rolled. Simple tuck and roll. Hopefully Jade watched that and learned. Hank and Tank are with the special guest, some guy whose name I didn't even write down because it do not matter. He was like a NASCAR driver or something. At least I'm assuming it's NASCAR. And they got into it with OTM. Then they had the match later where the NASCAR driver hit the member of OTM in the back with a helmet or something like that. And OTM lost. It's like, bro, OTM are a bunch of losers. They're big dudes and they're losers. They need to change it up some, I guess. Anyway, that wasn't even important. Lola Vice attacked Jada Parker during the match because she was trying to get to her earlier when Jada Parker beat Tatum Paxley, which actually was a pretty solid match between those two. But Lola Vice was trying to get her hands on Jada Parker and it didn't quite work out. But she got her in the OTM Hank and Tank match. And after the match, Lola Vice was so excited after beating up Jada Parker, she decided to dance with Hank and Tank and the special guest. And she was the only one that actually knew that she had hips. And the rest of those guys, I don't know if they just tell them like dance very bad on purpose or what. It's like you cannot possibly be that bad at dancing. Like it's hilariously bad. Like their rhythm is absent. Just no rhythm. They're walking stereotypes. 3 white guys. And they can't, not a lick of rhythm between them. What is going on? What's happening? What's happening? Anyway, Jada Parker did defeat Tatum Paxley. Afterwards, Tatum Paxley was actually kidnapped by Wendy Chu. She put her in a trunk and then rolled the trunk past everybody. Javon Evans actually says, ain't Tatum Paxley in there? And just paid it no mind. Didn't try to stop it. Didn't try to figure out what was going on. Didn't ask any questions. Didn't tell anybody. Didn't call the cops. Didn't tell Ava. He was like, hey, ain't Tatum Paxley in there? And I'm like, yeah, she is. Somebody do something. How are you aiding and abetting a kidnapping? But this is NXT. People disappear all the time. She kidnapped this woman in front of a room full of people. Usually a kidnapping happens off screen. This was a kidnapping on screen. Oh, it's psychotic. Anyway, Ashani the Adonis was flirting with Carmen Petrovich. Brinley Reese and Sol Ruka were there. You know, this is our soap opera element of the show. So Ashani the Adonis was flirting with Carmen Petrovich, who was playing hard to get. Say that he cost her one of her matches, so she cost him one of his. And he was like, uh-huh. And so Sol Ruka strolls over and tells Ashani the Adonis that Carmen Petrovich is not interested. And he, of course, rolls his eyes and leaves. And Carmen Petrovich got mad at Sol Ruka for cock blocking, which is an appropriate response because she was indeed cock blocking instead of cock guiding. She was, and they decided they were going to have a match later. So Sol Ruka defeated Carmen Petrovich, who is slowly but surely turning heel. Match was okay. Sol Ruka has been derailed quite a bit. I think it might have been injuries but ever since she did not win the North American title, she's kind of been aloof, just kind of floating about. But the story of the match was that Ashani the Adonis had a new girl up in the crowd, and Carmen Petrovich saw this and was distracted, and I don't know if her heart's broken, but she looked unhappy about that development. And as she was losing, Ashani the Adonis he was like, yeah, you know what? I've seen enough of this. And him and his new girl, who was white, and they left. Boy, they are not playing around with that interracial stuff, are they? Ooh, Dr. Umar's going to be so mad. Ooh, he's going to be mad. He'll be hopping mad. There's going to be steam coming out of his ears. But so Carmen Petrovich lost. She'll get over it. So Lexis King talks Charlie Dempsey into giving him a Heritage Cup match. This story is that Lexis King does not want to be like his father and says that he knows that Charlie Dempsey is going through a similar situation. And because, Dempsey's dad, he's been in his dad's shadow too, and all this. And Dempsey's like, you know what? You got a good point. So even though he's got this ridiculous mustache now, and he looks like a substitute teacher, he just decided to give Lexis King this match. So Lexis King needs a corner man. So Lexis King can't find one because nobody likes him. Everybody thinks he's a turncoat, which he is. He decides to go to Ava and says, everybody thinks that I'm like him, meaning Brian Pillman, and they don't want to be my corner man. Can't you just force somebody to be my corner man? And she was like, no. I'm like, why not? Why can't you? You're the boss around here. Anyway, it's crazy. Like, I can't force anybody to be your corner man. Like, yeah, you literally can. You can force people to punch other people in the head. You can tell somebody to hold a water bottle for this kid. In any event, he was disappointed, he being Lexis King, and he was like, you just don't understand. Everybody loves you guys, meaning the bloodline, the Anawai's and the Rock and everything. So I guess that's where they're going with this. Lexis King is just going to interact with all the other second generation, third generation wrestlers on the roster about how his father, he's trying to be different from his father, and how the reputation of his family is different from the reputation of Dempsey's family, which of course is William Regal, who's his father, and of course Ava, the bloodline, the Rock, right? So interesting. And they're still doing what they started with Lexis King, and this has been going on for over a year now, where he's trying to be different from Brian Pillman. First, he went in the complete, total direction of not using the name, but also kind of having the mannerisms and the personality and the look of Brian Pillman. And then he realized that the more he tried not to be like him, the more he ended up being like him. So now he's trying to change legitimately. And it's a spiritual journey that our boy Lexis King is on. And he's sitting out on the rocks watching the waves right now, because all the instigating and backstabbing he's done, nobody wants to be his friend. And I almost feel bad for him. Except for I'm pretty sure this is a long con. This feels like a really long con to me. I feel like there's definitely somebody going to get stabbed in the back behind this. And it's probably going to be Charlie Dempsey. All right, so Nathan Fraser and Axiom were bothering Javon Evans, telling him that he's young and there'll be other opportunities and he'll learn. And Javon Evans wasn't trying to hear that. He's frustrated. He wrestled 2 main events 2 weeks in a row, lost both times. And he's tired of hearing that he's young and there'll be other chances and all that stuff. So Nathan Fraser is talking about, oh yeah, I had those opportunities when I was your age, and just mocking him for his age. And then Javon Evans just smacked him. I mean, just smacked him like he was a hoe or something. Just smacked him right in the face. Nathan Fraser was hopping mad after this. He was very upset. Javon Evans just backed up like the fight was going to happen. But he continued to back up. Like, what? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? And he's backing up the entire time. What you gonna do? I'm like, where you going? Like, you create some space, but dude, you're going more than 10 paces. That's not dual area. You're light running away at this point. So as he's walking away, he passes Wesley, who talks about, this is just the beginning. There's all kinds of haters. Always going to be people looking down on you, looking for reasons to get at you, to poke at you. And he kind of says, well, you'll learn that too in time. And then Javon Evans was like, oh yeah? You want some too? And then Wesley was like, not really. And then he kept walking. So Nathan Fraser, because, steam's coming out of his ears, he decided to challenge Javon Evans and Cedric Alexander to a tag team championship match next week, which Ava agreed. Axiom, well, he didn't know nothing about this, but he eventually agreed to it. You can see that the Axiom Nathan Fraser thing is about to finally blow up. It's necessary. And hopefully, me, Brian Alvarez, Dave Meltzer, we're all going to cross our fingers. Look at me, I got my fingers crossed. That Javon Evans is finally going to win something and he win the tag team title. Why not? I don't see any reason why you shouldn't. If he doesn't win, he should beat up Cedric Alexander and turn heel. But I don't think he should be a heel. I think he should be a babyface. Stephanie Vaquer and Julia had a dual promo. Stephanie Vaquer talked about being the first woman of South American heritage that has made history and traveling the world. She conquered Europe, Japan, Mexico, and now the WWE. Julia mentioned that the two of them became friends after having matches in Japan, and now they're going to work together. They both have championships in their sights, but first they want to deal with Cora Jade and Roxanne Perez. Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade, however, were talking amongst each other about Stephanie Vaquer and Julia having no chance, and how they're tired of all these international talents and big free agents coming into NXT thinking that they're going to get a top spot. This, of course, ringing the doorbell of Fatal Influence. This is their exact gimmick. So all five of them clicked up and was like, you know what, you're right. We're tired of all these newbies. At this point, Kalani Jordan strolled over, wanted to know which one of the Fatal Influence she's going to be having a match with at Halloween Havoc, but they refused to tell her. They also kept it a secret which two of them will be fighting Stephanie Vaquer and Julia in the main event. Now, this was the main event of the show. I know a lot of people may grumble about that, but it was indeed. Fatal Influence, which was Fallon Henley and JC Jane, were defeated by Stephanie Vaquer and Julia. So Damage Control kind of gave the Stephanie Vaquer and Julia a little glare before the match, teasing something between the four of them in the future. You know what? I'm actually kind of interested. I'm actually quite interested, if we're being honest. This could be something special. They found solid footing with the women's tag team division. Good. Thank you. It took forever. I don't understand why you took the tag team titles out of NXT, but now more than ever, they need them. Anyway, Jason Jane and Fallon Henley losing. Well, I knew they were going to lose. They kind of had to. Got to make Stephanie and Julia look strong for the match that's coming up. Kalani Jordan ended up taking out Jasmine Nix in the middle of the match. I don't think Jasmine will be the opponent at Halloween Havoc, but we'll see. So, after the match, Stephanie and Julia were mugging at Cora and Roxanne, who was watching from the balcony. A frustrated JC Jane spun the wheel to see what kind of match they would have at Halloween Havoc, and she got spinner's choice, whatever that means. I mean, does that mean she gets to choose the match? I mean, she gets to choose the opponents? I mean, I don't know. In any event, Zarya, aka Delta, made her appearance at the very end of the show, literally 10 seconds before the show went off the air. She was standing in the aisleway to create a third person for this match. Now, the vignettes teased that she would show up at Halloween Havoc, but it did not tease that she would be wrestling at the show, but that she would make an appearance. So it seems that this match is actually going to be a 6-woman tag, and that all 3 members of Fatal Influence will have to face Stephanie Vaquer, Julia, and Zarya. And that's the implication here. I don't know if that's true. I'm just kind of jumping to conclusions because we didn't get to see the very end of NXT. I guess they ran long, and the pay-per-view is literally Sunday. So unless they announced it on Twitter, which I'm going to guess that they did, I'm going to guess that there's going to be a 6-woman tag. That way, all 3 women from Fatal Influence will get to have a match at the show. It's going to open the show anyway, so it's not that big a deal. And I think that that's better than a tag team match. Because some people have never seen this Delta before. I'm sorry, Zarya. They've never seen her before. So putting her in there with Fatal Influence should be pretty good. Of course, there's no reason for her to be with them because it's like, why? there's like, at least with Stephanie and Julia, they've done a couple of weeks of bonding, and they just did a promo earlier showing why they're being brought together. In this situation, there's no conversation at all about this whole thing. At the same time, though, one of them do have to wrestle Kalani Jordan, so maybe it won't be a 6-woman tag at Halloween Havoc. So, now that I think about it, I don't think it will be, due to the fact that one of these women have to wrestle Kalani Jordan. But it was a pretty hot way to end the show. Got a lot of people talking, spurs jingling and jangling. Very interesting stuff there. Okie dokie. So Adriana Rizzo was found laid on the ground, hurt by Luca Crucifino. Tony D'Angelo stayed with her while Luca went and wrestled and lost to Obafemi. He got wrecked, by the way. It was great. Then Obafemi beat up Luca and stacked some more. Tony D'Angelo tried to make the save, but no dice. He ended up getting zip tied to the ring post, and Obafemi forced Tony D'Angelo to watch as he put Stacks through a table and powerbombed Luca through a ladder. And the idea being that they eliminated the family from this match on Sunday, that they won't be there because they got beat up. So Tony D'Angelo talked about Oba making this personal, and now it's more than climbing the ladder to get the title, and he's gonna kick Obafemi's ass, making promises. But that wasn't even the interesting part, even though it was the fun part. Oba beating up these guys was pretty fun. He beat them up by himself too, so no help. Nikkita Lyons was talking to 2 black guys. I wrote down TNT. I think it's Tyson and Tariq. And she was giving them this lecture about how they got to go out and get it. They got to be aggressive. They can't sit back and wait for people to hand them things. And as she's talking, Obafemi strolls up behind her with her coat. "You dropped this." And she's like, "Thank you." And the internet exploded. The internet took the ball and ran with it. Because look, Nikkita Lyons knows her fan base. They know she's the Paul Queen at this point. Toni Storm was Paul Queen for a while. Then she went and lost weight. Nikkita Lyons is the Pog Empress at this point. She rules over all she sees. And nobody loves Pogs more than niggas. And she's probably consumed quite a bit of black DNA. She looks very comfortable around black people. I'm talking very comfortable. This is the most comfortable I've seen her on the microphone in a while. She wasn't stilted at all. She felt natural, like it was really her. Like, this is how she really talks around people that she's actually talking to. But that Obafemi Nikkita Lyons scene, oh, have mercy. Everybody got Dr. Umar on speed dial. My God. His inbox about to be full. Like, they got this gigantic African king with the snow bunny. There's a blizzard in Florida. Brothers, we must stay focused. You can't let that devil temptress rule your mind. But Shawn Michaels is the top gooner for this. It's insane. I loved it though, and it actually makes some kind of storyline sense, because they're saying Nikkita maybe attacked Adriana Rizzo on Obafemi's behalf. Now that they're doing a thing, whatever that thing is, that they're doing something, and they know that Obafemi hasn't put his hands on Adriana Rizzo, so maybe it's Nikkita Lyons. Now, what would be the reason for that? They don't have to come up with something, but the context of this whole conversation is about Nikkita Lyons wanting to be aggressive and take opportunities instead of waiting for them. She picked a fight with Lola Vice last week or 2 weeks ago, and now she's going to pick a fight with Adriana Rizzo, and that works for me. Obafemi and Nikkita Lyons as a team works for me. I like it. I'm not porn brained. All right. I just like both of these talent, and them being in a similar angle works out for me. I don't understand how they work together when he's like, Nigerian king and she's like hip hop dance chick. I don't know how that works out, but we'll iron those parts out later. How about that? We'll figure out how to make it work. All right, so Andre Chase says that Andre Chase University was about giving people opportunities, but Ridge Holland who was seeking redemption, didn't really want the redemption, didn't want to take advantage of the opportunities, and that everybody was right about him. So then he challenged Ridge Holland to an ambulance match, which is psychotic because Ridge Holland's a gigantic mound of muscle. Ridge Holland said that he wore the colors of Chase University proudly. He then questioned how Andre Chase felt watching the cathedral he built where he had all of his control destroyed. And says that in this ambulance match, he's going to get to be the man that he wants to be, which is fine. The redemption arc of Ridge Holland has failed, but I'm going to see the power of friendship where Riley and Duke and everybody comes back to beat up Ridge Holland and throw him in the ambulance. That's just kind of how I see it. We'll talk about that more in the predictions. All right, so the Ethan Page Trick Williams promo was tremendous. Ethan Page explained that 17 years he's had to bleed, he's been hit with weapons, but he's got back up. He questioned Trick Williams' heart. He said that when he was coming up, there was no performance center. There wasn't an army of mentors to guide your career. He just had to go through hell to get here. He said he had nothing but his heart, his ability to take a beating and to keep coming. He says that Trick Williams is all flash and fake confidence. He doesn't have that devil in him. You don't got that dog in you. He says that Trick Williams is not tough. He says that he's not as devious as Ethan Page is. Then he says that 17 years it took for him to become a champion in WWE. He got a taste of it and became addicted. He'll do anything to get it back. Trick Williams didn't have much to say in this promo. This was all an Ethan Page promo. But he did have a couple of good lines. One being my favorite, where he says that he's glad Ethan Page is used to getting his ass whooped because he's going to kick his ass again on Sunday, which I thought was great. And the second one was he ain't going to be apologizing, nor is he ashamed for his blessings. In other words, he got the chance to be in the Performance Center and all that. He is not going to apologize for that. And I thought both of those lines, which is pretty much the entirety of Trick Williams' promo, was great. Because now there was a time where I would have said this promo is corny. Because Kevin Owens did this, CM Punk did this, Bryan Danielson did this, I believe Sami Zayn did this. The promo is typically indie wrestler X is talking to big time WWE superstar, usually John Cena, and talking about how privileged John Cena is, talking about how WWE never wanted a guy like them, how hard they had to fight through the indies, how homeless they were at one point, how they had to eat collard greens out of the trash can or some other sad, pathetic existence they had to live before they finally got to WWE. And that's exactly the promo that Ethan Page cut. It's the exact same fucking promo that we've heard from Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and CM Punk on John Cena. But it works really good here. For starters, I haven't heard it in a while. So that helps. Second, it works especially well in NXT. Because they have all this state-of-the-art stuff. Because they have the best trainers and they have all this great equipment. And they're being paid to train, which is almost unheard of in wrestling. Usually you pay somebody else to train, and here they're training you and paying you to train. So Ethan Page, being a frustrated veteran who is looking at this decked out, and Trick Williams is iced out with the chain, he got the big white coat. He just looks like $1 million. And he's looking at this guy and he's saying, you're the product of all of this stuff around you. And this doesn't make you a pro wrestler. this doesn't make you what I am. You don't have it in you. It has to be beat in you. You have to experience it in order to really get what it means to be a pro wrestler. And it puts over the hunger that Ethan Page has for being a champion in WWE. So I think it worked. The only problem I had with this promo is I think it went on a little too long. But ultimately, I think the promo really worked, and it really put over what Ethan Page was trying to say here. I would have preferred if he did not use the word devil, because it was so overused in the MJF Adam Cole angle. But whatever. I mean, it's a completely different company, different context. They're talking about this in the context of Devil's Playground match, and they're teasing blood and they're teasing violence. I don't think Trick Williams should be blading. I'll say that. Maybe Ethan Page should blade. I'm not sure Trick Williams should be blading. It's probably not a good idea. It's probably not a good idea. And if he does blade, if he blades in that white coat, it'll be crazy. That would be crazy. But I don't think they'll do anything like that. I don't think it's going to go that far. But, of course, they're teasing it. So, I thought the promo segment was excellent between the two of them. Ethan Page poured his heart out. And Trick Williams stomped all over it, which was amazing. You know, suffering no fools. So, let's get into the Halloween Havoc prediction part of the show. NXT was very good. I thoroughly enjoyed the show, by the way, as I usually do. So, NXT Halloween Havoc, Sunday, October 27th, from the Giant Center in Hershey, Pennsylvania. WrestleTix has not updated their information in almost 2 weeks. Well, over 2 weeks, because they have it from October the 5th. They distributed 4,124 tickets. There was 1,739 tickets remaining. Again, this was from almost 3 weeks ago. So October the 5th. So maybe they've sold more tickets since then. We don't know. But 4,000 people in the building, not bad. Not great, because it's not near a sellout. You know, there's still like almost 2,000 tickets remaining. But who knows? They may get closer to 5 or 6 by bell time. As prices drop, it'll probably get closer to 5 or 6,000. So there's 5 matches on the card for now. And it looks like it's going to be a very solid show. Let's get into it. Spin the wheel, make the deal. Spinner's choice match for the NXT Women's North American title. Kalani Jordan versus one of the members of Fatal Influence. So either it'll be Fallon Henley, JC Jane, or Jasmine Nix. I'm going to guess that it's going to be Fallon Henley, and that Fallon Henley will win. Now, when Kalani Jordan won the title, I said she's going to lose that belt to Fallon Henley. I just saw it coming. Now is the time to do it. Kalani Jordan's a great young talent. She's great. But Fatal Influence loses so much. They need something. You know? Kalani Jordan has been great as the North American champion. But she's all work rate, not much in the way of personality. A loss could really add some character to her. And it wouldn't hurt her at all, because she's had a decent run and she was the first ever Women's North American champion. But you need to put her in the chase position. And not only is she chasing, but it's a 3-on-1 situation. Like, we already know it's already 3-on-1 in the opposite direction with them chasing. But 3 people chasing one doesn't make sense if, you know, they can't just jump her and take the belt, which is what they should do here. Just jump her and take the belt. Sure, there's, you know, technically it's a 1-on-1 match, but you can cheat. You're bad guys. Fallon Henley is going to win this title, and it's well deserved. You know, technically JC Jane probably deserves it a lot more because she's been in NXT longer, but to me it seems like Fallon Henley is the more stable of the members of Fatal Influence. And Jasmine Nix, if it was her, she's just going to lose. I mean, she's a rookie pretty much. You don't put the belt on her. Next, Ridge Holland versus Andre Chase in an ambulance match. This match is the big blow off to a feud. So that means the babyface should probably win. Now, unless Ridge Holland is going to go up to wrestle for one of the titles, meaning either the men's North American title or the NXT championship, he should lose this match. Now, if he's going to wrestle for one of those titles, then he should win it. If it's Ridge Holland versus the North American champion, okay, he's got to beat Andre Chase. But if he's not going to go up and he's just going to be in this spot right here, then to just have all the members of Chase University jump him and throw him into the ambulance. That's what I would do. Thea Hale and Duke and Riley, everybody just jumps Ridge Holland, beats him up, and throws him in the ambulance. And that would be a great way to write him off TV for a short time and to give Andre Chase a nice little boost. And then maybe you have him wrestle for one of the titles because he's probably one of the most over guys in the company. And I mean in the entire company. It includes Raw and SmackDown, believe it or not. I know some people are going to be like, what? Yes, it's true. It's very true. So I'm going to go with Andre Chase winning because I don't think Ridge Holland is seen as a main event guy by Shawn Michaels. Tag team match, Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade versus Stephanie Vaquer and Julia. Clearly Stephanie Vaquer and Julia are going to win this match. I fully expect one of them, probably Julia, will pin Roxanne Perez, leading to Julia Roxanne Perez 2, and then Stephanie Vaquer versus Cora Jade in the future. I say this because it seems like Julia is the one that they want to push out of the three. Out of the three new women that came in, it seems like Julia is the one that they consider to be the bigger star. And she's already lost to Roxanne Perez, and pinning her to get a rematch seemed like a great booking decision. If Stephanie was to pin Roxanne Perez, then she, of course, will have to get a championship match. And that would be fine, except, do you really want Roxanne to beat Julia and Stephanie? I wouldn't, personally. And I certainly wouldn't book the thing to go the other way around, where Roxanne and Cora Jade actually beat them. I wouldn't have that at all. I also would not book for Cora Jade to take the fall. I think Cora Jade should not take the fall. Mainly because the title is still involved. And so pinning the champion is an important bit that you do in these tag team matches where the champion is involved. So I'm going to go with Julia gets the pin on Roxanne Perez to set up a rematch on NXT TV where Julia hopefully will take the belt. Match 4, Tony D'Angelo versus Oba Femi. Tables, ladders, and scares match for the NXT North American Championship. I would like for Oba Femi to win this belt back. I would. But it hasn't been that long since Tony D'Angelo won it. This was, in my opinion, a good booking decision. This match will probably open the show because it's a ladder match. Because Tony D'Angelo hasn't had the belt that long. And you want to give this guy a good run because he beat Oba Femi. I think Oba Femi should be the world champion. Okay? And when I mean that, he should be the crown jewel champion. He should pin this guy, then pin Trick Williams the same night, and then pin Gunther and Cody, stacking them on top of each other. And then, of course, he should go to TNA and pin whoever the champion is over there. And he should also pin Jon Moxley. I think Oba Femi should just stack all the champions on top of each other, like the Aztecs used to do with their child sacrifices. Just make a wall out of them, like the Spartans did in 300. He should just start stacking world champions and building a wall of them. And he should be champion of all champions. That's how this should happen in the real world. But we live in some fugazi, fake, and gay reality where he's probably going to lose this match because Tony D'Angelo hasn't been champion that long and he needs to be established. And losing a match in which you don't have to get pinned or submitted is perfectly fine. So Femi is likely going to lose, and it's going to be okay because it doesn't require for him to be pinned or submitted. He climbed the ladder and pulled it down. That's it. So Femi can, couple of weeks, put him in there with the NXT champion and just write this one off as he did a good job as the North American champion, but it's time to move on. Main event, Trick Williams versus Ethan Page. Devil's Playground match for the NXT championship. Well, clearly, Trick Williams is going to win. I want Trick Williams versus Femi to be the big match in NXT's future. If Trick Williams is going to drop the belt to anybody, it needs to be Femi. I'm okay with him winning here and then maybe wrestling Wesley and beating him. And maybe Javon Evans and beating him and maybe a couple of other people. But Femi needs to be in his rearview mirror. And that's really what I want to see. But this match ought to be fine. Ethan Page, I think he's did all the thing he can do in NXT. After this match, you probably need to pull him out and send him to Raw or SmackDown or something. I just don't see what he's adding to NXT if he loses this match. He doesn't come across as a guy who should be in the mid-card. And I'm not saying that because he's so good. I'm saying that because he's a guy with so much experience. He's so, I don't want to use the word old, but he's been around for a long time, and he's did what he came to NXT to do, which is to get a shot at the championship, get an opportunity, show that he can be a top guy or at least somewhat of a star in this position. And now it's time to move on. I think that Ethan Page loses this match and then he ends up as an opponent for LA Knights on SmackDown. I mean, I can see those two matching up pretty well on SmackDown in the middle of the show. Verbally, they could be just fine. But I don't think Ethan Page works if he loses this match and he ends up in the second match on the show or something like that. I just don't think that that's sensible. But I certainly don't think Trick Williams should lose. So, I fully expect this show to be pretty good. So I'm going to go with Fallon Henley winning the Women's North American title. Andre Chase wins the ambulance match. Stephanie Vaquer and Julia, with Julia pinning Roxanne Perez in the women's quote-unquote dream tag team match. Who dreams about this? Tony D'Angelo to win the ladder match. And Trick Williams to win the Devil's Playground match for the NXT Championship. What say you guys? Let me know in the comment section below. And I'll talk to you folks later. Peace out.